Hey guys, welcome back to Breaking Anxiety. In this video, I want to talk about something that's really helped me stop and slow down and really change the way I look at my anxiety. These days, everyone is busy all the time. Most of the work I do requires me to multitask, schedule meetings, message clients, and more. I cram large amounts of work into a shorter period of time and I often work late. A few months ago, I was working on a number of different projects all at once, and each of them had the same deadline to complete. I started feeling things in my body like sore muscles and weakness. I had phantom aches and pains that came out of nowhere. I was biting my nails a lot and it was getting harder to stay focused. But I kept going, working late into the night so I could meet the deadlines. Then other symptoms emerged. First, I found it difficult to sleep at night. I'd toss and turn and only get snatches of sleep. I was lucky if I was able to lie in bed and rest for 4 hours. I'd wake up exhausted. Later, I started working again, and I was always nervous and tense. It was almost impossible to talk with anyone without becoming irritated with them. In the afternoon, I get sleepy and lethargic, and it became impossible to focus or think clearly about anything because all I could think about was the deadline for all of my work. After grabbing something to eat, I'd go home and try anything to get sleepy. I had tried reading, but in the back of my mind were the nagging reminders of all the work I still had to do. I'd lie on my pillow and my heart raced. At one point, I sat up in bed and began to hyperventilate. That was when I realized my work was giving me panic attacks, and the feeling of dread was overwhelming. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just quit my job because I needed the income. But I knew something had to change. The next morning, I decided to take a few hours off. My productivity was falling, even though I was putting more hours into my work. I wanted to reset and find some way to get rid of my worsening condition. At this point, I thought I was going crazy. In my darkest thoughts, I was afraid because I believed I was dying. Somewhere inside of me, I knew none of this was true. But I didn't know what to do to feel calm again, and to feel excited about my work. I began to research the symptoms of anxiety, and found lists, all of which listed similar symptoms: rapid breathing, sweating, restlessness, insomnia, panic, dread. I checked each symptom off as I read them. I had experienced them all, at one time or another. On medical websites, I read about treatment for anxiety and read about different options, including medication and psychiatric therapy. I didn't think I needed to see a therapist, and I was against taking drugs. Looking for other treatment options, I found another set of lists that were almost identical to each other. In each of these, one way of dealing with anxiety that looked appealing was meditation. I had never meditated before. I didn't know anything about it, and certainly didn't know how to do it. I had some friends who had talked to me about it before, but it all seemed so mysterious, and not something I'd be able to do. I got off the computer and felt as helpless as I did before. We talked because my problem was that I wasn't able to slow down enough to sleep peacefully. I could cut back on coffee and do a run around the block now and then, but I didn't have a lot of time. I tried to slow down my breathing first. I sat down and closed my eyes and began to slow down my breathing. As I did so, thoughts intruded, and I felt it almost impossible to focus. I kept doing it for a full 5 minutes, then stopped. I actually felt a little bit better when I finished, but within a half hour, I was like a hamster on a wheel all over again and began to feel a sense of panic again because the deadline now was less than a week away, and I still had a lot more work ahead of me. So desperately, I looked into meditation. I learned that meditation can help reduce stress by lowering heart rate and blood pressure and help focus and have a sharper memory. This is what I needed for my work. So I made my living room dark and quiet. I got comfortable and then sat down and closed my eyes. I knew now I was onto something. I felt a little bit better and I was able to be productive for the rest of the day. The next day I woke up, drank only 1 cup of coffee, set the mood in the house again and tried to meditate. This time by relaxing my muscles by breathing slowly and evenly. Over the next few days I was getting better at it, but felt there was something missing. I knew that my routine left a lot of room for improvement, and since my time was short, I need something that could help me get into a relaxed state fairly quickly. I went and looked for meditation apps, and found a few, but the one that caught my eye was the Calm app. So I downloaded the app to see what it was all about. I had heard it was popular, and it got great reviews. I opened it and found that it had all the same kind of information I'd researched, except it was all in one place. There were masterclasses on meditation, music tracks to help me relax, stories to help me get some sleep, and something called a daily calm. Most important, the app had over 100 guided meditations. something which might be the missing piece to what I was doing. I chose a daily calm for anxiety. I made myself comfortable and played the first calm I saw. The guide voice spoke, making me focus on places in my body that were tense, instructing me to relax in these areas. The voice spoke over calm, soothing music. The voice spoke of breathing and releasing without thinking, and to allow my body to relax. I was drawn away from my body now, to my mind, and the guide voice instructed me to observe my thoughts. Stressful thoughts arose, and the guide spoke of observing these thoughts and becoming detached from them. By simply acknowledging the thoughts and ideas that made me anxious, I could reduce the amount of stress they caused. My breathing slowed down and I began to breathe deeper. The guide voice advised to simply observe the thoughts and not engage with them. In the end, they were just thoughts, things that gain importance only because I made them that way. Over a period of fewer than 10 minutes, I got better at just letting the thoughts that made me anxious drift by, as if they were floating above me in the night sky. The more I observed them, the less meaningful they were to me, and the more detached they became. When it ended, I opened my eyes and looked around. My breathing was slow and rhythmic, and deep for several minutes. I felt relaxed and peaceful. I didn't even want it to end. I could have stayed seated that way for hours. Yet, when I stood up and got ready for work, the calm followed me and stayed with me even after I started. I had finally found a helpful tool I could use, and when I worked, I was sharper and more focused. I had completed my work faster than I had in the last few weeks when I had been anxious. I got through the day, and then when it was time to sleep, I put on one of the sleep stories that came with the calm app. After about 10 minutes, my eyes got heavy. Before drifting into sleep, I put on some sounds from nature. That night, I played the sound of the ocean. I closed my eyes and entered into a deep, peaceful sleep. And for the first time in weeks, I actually needed to be woken up by the alarm. I had been up before the alarm most mornings before. I started the day again with meditation, choosing a different daily calm this time. After sleeping almost 8 hours, I felt more relaxed and eager to start work. Over time, I learned to control my breathing within seconds and enter into the tranquil realm, observing thoughts that made me anxious, then releasing them. Each morning, I began with a 10-minute meditation and faced the day with greater calmness. Even at work, I was less reactive to what others said and more able to keep my work the central focus of the day. Soon, I didn't need to stay late for work, even finishing early on some days. I met all of my deadlines, then rewarded myself with some time off afterwards. But each morning, I entered into a peaceful 10-minute meditation. I even found other things I could do to help me stay relaxed, like exercising a little bit every day to work my muscles. I also found that moving around a lot, stretching, jogging, riding my bike made me sleepier at night. I cut down on my sugar intake and drank only 1 to 2 cups of coffee instead of the 5 or 6 I was drinking before to stay awake. I could have done all the things the Calm app did on my own, but for now, I enjoy how it's put together and how many resources I have access to. And besides, using it every day has changed my life dramatically. I feel less burdened by dark thoughts or the sound of voices of other people during the day. Now, I know I might be making it sound like this is some sort of miracle app that will help cure anxiety, but the truth is that it doesn't. It takes a lot of practice. And so if you're interested in my #1 resource for destroying your anxiety, besides the Calm app, click the first link in the description. It's got a great resource in there that will help you cut back on the anxious thoughts. It's helped me more than I could ever imagine. And if you're not already, make sure you click on that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next video.